Hello, folks. Today is Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. My name is Todor Vodov, and this is the 23rd episode of Keeping It Realistic. I know that you know this by now, but I gladly repeat it in the beginning. In this show, in cooperation with Chaos, we review some of the latest, more interesting projects that have been posted in the last 2 weeks in the Chaos Campus Facebook group, talking about their strengths, but also pointing out their weaknesses and suggesting eventual ways to improve them. We also like to discuss general topics around the group or the visualization field in general, and we do all of this as a live event so that you can actively participate in the discussion. So please don't hesitate to say hi, share your thoughts, opinions, maybe suggestions on somebody's work and everything that comes to your mind. I see some of you are already here. Hi Dhanushka, hi Abdi. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining in. I hope you had a good week so far. It's only Tuesday, but we haven't seen each other for 2 weeks, so happy to see you all here. As usual, hi, Simon joined us. We'll talk about his work later. Hi man. As usual, in the beginning of the show, we will take a moment to appreciate our cover image for the episode. It's a pretty cool one, if you ask me. I really like it a lot. We have very different topics on it. We have an interior close-up, an automobile, and also an atmospheric exterior. A pretty nice mix, if you ask me. The images were contributed by Nikko, Dhanushka, and Thanish. For Nikko and Thanish, it is the very first feature. For Dhanushka, it's already the third one. So congratulations to all three of you. And with this out of the way, we can go and talk about some news. Let me see where the right window is. Yeah, this is the right window. So today, in the beginning, we will talk about some recent events, some announcements. Then we'll move on to a lot of learning topics. And then we'll talk about our current exercise. Let's begin. First, it's the Chaos Unboxed event. It took place last Tuesday live on YouTube. Did you watch it? And if so, how did you like it? I watched it. I think that there are some very, very cool things in the making on the Chaos side. Very nice AI tools that will support us in different areas of our work. However, I also expected to see more during that presentation. To me, it was a bit too much talk and not enough demonstration or presentation of those tools that are in development. I know that I'm not the only one who felt like that, but I decided to actually reach out to Chaos and share my opinion with them in a constructive way, obviously the way we do it here. And what was really cool, what I really appreciate, is that, how companies often are when people disagree with them on a topic. They're just like, yeah, you are in the wrong because we're a company and we're perfect. We do everything fine all the time. But this wasn't what I experienced with Chaos. And as we're keeping it realistic here, even though this show is in a collaboration, I will gladly, lay it all out on you, because they actually, they owned it. They went back to me and they were, I wouldn't say apologetic, but they explained everything and they wanted to learn how to do better, which I think is the absolutely right approach, and left a very good impression on me as an artist, not as somebody who collaborates with Chaos, but just as an artist, because I see people who care. And the whole thing, to be honest, the way I see it, is more of, or it has been more of it of a miscommunication, because the way it was maybe announced and hyped, I think that a lot of us expected Chaos to talk about 2 hours and present all of their new developments and whatnot. And when all of this was like ready in 20 minutes, some of us were disappointed, and understandably so. And as far as I can tell, Chaos very much understands why this is the case. Again, it's more of a miscommunication as far as I can tell, because actually Chaos Unboxed is meant as a series of events that will take place throughout the year and have different topics that will display and showcase different tools, the tools that we all are curious about. And what we had last Tuesday was more or less just the green light, waving this start flag and saying, yeah, this is like, we'll have these events planned for you and there will be a lot of awesome stuff for you. So that's it, bye. And this is why it felt so short and partially underwhelming, because it was, let's say, slightly miscommunicated. It wasn't this one major event. It was just the starter of all of the events that are yet to come. But anyway, this is just the way I see it. I really think that the next events will be way more interesting, because it will be less, general talk and more specific, showcasing this and that, or talking about topics that are important to all of us. So yeah. Simon says, indeed, many of people that just put hate comments did not know this is going to be a series. In the end, everyone will benefit from the upcoming updates. I absolutely agree, but to me it was a bit of an experiment, because we're keeping it realistic here, and again, no matter if I collaborate with Chaos or not, I will always keep my integrity and won't just come here and tell you, yeah, this was like the best event ever, if I don't see it this way. But because I like Chaos, I respect Chaos, I decided to actually make a video, like a feedback video, like I do with you guys, and just send it over. And they actually watched it and they got back at me and wanted to listen, to hear more, which I always appreciate, and I really think is a very good sign of a company not losing its roots, not forgetting where it comes from, but actually listening to people. Because let's not forget, companies are also made of people, and sometimes people maybe plan something and expect it to be cool or whatever, and then it turns out not so cool. But it's humane, right? So as you say, Simon, I also think that the tools that they are developing are absolutely going to be in our favor. I'm very excited to see them still. And yeah, talking about the Unbox event, you can see a recording of it here on this site, which I will share with you right now. But you can also see a written recap for what was talked about the event, and some interesting points about the single render engines such as V-Ray and Scape. What I see here about Corona Renderer, I don't know if you got the chance to check this page already. What we have here, it says we are enhancing teamwork and workflow efficiency with support for cloud collaboration, VR scene files, and Chaos Vantage. Which to me kind of means that Corona is going to finally be introduced to Vantage will finally be introduced for Corona sometime this year probably, which is, what do I say? Finally, I'm really looking forward to that. That would be really awesome and absolutely a step in the right direction. So yeah, you can see about the single render engines here, also Vantage, Celindo, the Chaos Cosmos. So yeah, let's keep an eye on this. And talking about Chaos Unboxed, next week we have an on-site event. As I told you, it is meant as a series of events, some of them being on-site. And on March 21st, it's actually in 2 weeks, in Berlin, there will be this event called Chaos Unboxed Berlin with some really, really cool guest speakers. You see Arthur and Bartusz from the Common Point. We know these guys already, very nice. Jana Merkulev, he's also in the Chaos Campus group, sometimes providing really, really awesome feedback. He's from the Chaos team. Also Kai Burival, who is also from the Chaos team. But not only, we also have artists from different studios like the Dizzy Viper, Fabio Oberheimer, or Mike Gruber-Logs from Soy. So this will probably be a very, very cool and interesting event that I actually plan to attend. And if I do, I will make sure to make some photos, maybe some videos, so that I can share them with you either in real time or then on the next episode of our show. Simon Fry asks, are they going to release any record from the Berlin event? I don't know about this. I'm not a Chaos employee. I just cooperate with Chaos partially, so I don't know. I hope so, but if not, I would, and if it's allowed, if I'm allowed, I will try to at least take some photos. Or I don't think that anybody can stop me from this. I will tell you everything that I heard or saw there, if there is something interesting and so on. And also on the same day, as you can read here, so I'll send this link as well. If some of you happen to be somewhere, no, what the hell is this? This autofill is just awful. Yeah, I cannot send it without sending some stupid stuff. So yeah, you gotta find it for yourself. It's just Chaos Unboxing Berlin. Sorry for that. But this happens later in the evening, and before that, at the same location, we have an ArchViz workshop with creative lighting with the dear Nikos Nikolopoulos, which starts just earlier in the afternoon and goes until the Chaos event starts. So Nikos will also be there, and this will be something like exclusive live on-site workshop, because the ArchViz masterclass is such a big success. So this is building upon it. And again, I'm also very much looking forward to this as well, also to finally meet Nikos in person. It would be great, and all the other guys as well. So yeah, if you have the chance to attend this, it would be awesome to see some of you there in person. But if not, I will try to make sure to tell you a bit about it afterwards. With this, I think we had enough about news. So now let's talk about learning, because there are lots of topics here. First, what we had is approximately 2 years ago, 2 weeks ago, it feels like years because I missed you guys. So yeah, 2 weeks ago, Leslie had an issue. He had a scene which he didn't really want to render in like a insanely high resolution. But as you can tell here by the screenshot, it would have taken a while to do so, because it says 479 hours until finished, which of course is a bit longer than most of us have the time to wait for. So obviously he had an issue he had to solve. Some people tried to help him, like Christian here, or Francesco Legrenzi, who by the way has a great book, a great guide on Corona, if you don't know it already. And it seems like in the end, Leslie managed to actually figure it all out, more or less by himself, with the help of the others, of course, and also with doing his own research. He writes, after much research, I was able to download the trial version of a plugin called Proxy Textures, I'll show this to you in a minute, and reduce the scale of a lot of assets far from the camera to 2K resolution. I also changed from Corona Sun to HDRI from Polyhaven, and I replaced a tree that was 300 megabytes to one from the Cosmos library with 70 megabytes. And when I tell you, this has greatly improved my render time by a mile. You can see the difference in the third photo I added. I think what helped the most was reducing the texture scale. The best part is that the new rendering is in a larger resolution than the previous one, but it is way faster. And we are talking about 2 hours instead of 479. So it really is way faster. Talking about the points here, I would say changing the sun to HDRI, usually from what I've seen, at least in Corona, I feel that rendering with sun and sky usually is a tad quicker than rendering with an HDRI. But this never makes such a big impact on render times, at least in my experience. If you have other experiences, please share them in the comments. Regarding the tree, which was 300 megabytes, don't have such large objects without having a proxy instead, because this is just way too large, needlessly large. But so I also assume that it was proxy textures that really helped the most. And let's take a look at proxy textures. It's a plugin for Macs by Spline Dynamics by Hernan Rodenstein. What it does is exactly, it makes those textures that are far away from the camera, let's say the leaves on the plant here, you definitely don't need 8K textures on it, because you won't see the difference even to 1K by this distance. And this is what this plugin does. So if you want to try it, if you have a heavy scene that you can experiment on with this plugin, there is a trial version that you can download. It is fully functional for 10 days. So if you know that you have this one heavy scene where you had huge problems with rendering, then you can gladly try it out on this scene. And if you like it, you can buy this. It costs around 20 bucks. If not, maybe wait for a scene that at some point in your work it will just happen that you have a very heavy scene. Then you can use this plugin and try it out for the 10 days. Maybe the 10 days will cover the duration of your work on the project, maybe not. But again, investing something like 20 bucks on something which saves you a lot of time and makes your life easier is more than worth it, if you ask me. Anyways, props to everybody who tried to help, and also big up to Leslie himself, who not only described his problem very precisely. This is exactly the way you do it. If you want to have a good, precise answer, you also have to have a precise question. But also actually invested the time he didn't just call it a day, but he actually invested the time after he solved his issue to go back to the group and comment on his own post, sharing with everybody how he solved it, what he did in order to achieve his goals. And this is something that we all profit from, and I'm very thankful for that, because I also didn't know about proxy textures, for example. I see Arthur joined it. My dad is here. Abdi says, or check your models for unwelded vertices. Most common reason for issues like that, at least in my experiences. This is another very good point. You can check your geometry. The forensic tools by Cine software are very good for that. Okay, let's check out the next thing that we have. Marcelo shared the fire and flame, and I would say smoke generator version 1, Arvis tools. It was made by Vuan Hue, and I think I already downloaded it. It is actually free on CGTricks if you use this discount code CGTricks while you're paying for, and it's actually pretty cool. I'm not sure if I would call this a generator. It's more like a gallery of nice fire and smoke PNGs that are very easy to put into your scenes. And the cool thing about them is that they can also act like sprites, meaning that they can always face a certain camera, because obviously given that those fire images or that the smoke is an image, you don't want to see it angled, you want it to just be fully facing the camera. And there is an option for this. There are also lots of very nice flames and smokes as well. So if you want to save on render resources and you don't want to have ODBs or volumetrics, then this is a very, very good solution. So thanks to Marcelo for sharing, to Vuan for making this, and to CGTricks for giving this out for free, I guess. Next, we have something shared by Amit, which is Microsoft's Copilot. We come to the topic of AI. How can we not? It's actually a cool thing. I tried it out. You have a few options within it. It's free, first and foremost. So you have something which is Copilot, which is more or less like ChatGPT. It probably is ChatGPT. Then you have Designer, which actually is DALL-E. And then you have some other functions like Cooking Assistant or Fitness Trainer, because why not? Sounds good to me. And of course, probably for us as artists, probably the most interesting part is the Designer, where you can eventually generate some... Oh, I was thrown out of Facebook, right? Hello again, folks. I see some of you are already back, because we are back with Keeping It Realistic episode 23. Part 2, after the unexpected maintenance by Facebook. Let's hope that this time we will get to actually finish our show, because last time we weren't so lucky. In the end, I will probably stitch both videos. The one that we had, in the end of it, you see me just wondering what just happened for probably 5 to 10 minutes. Until I just stop the stream, and now I decided to just start another one we had a lot of people watching last time. Now we'll obviously have way less, but this is not an issue. You can always watch the recording later. Again, I will try do my best to download and stitch both videos so that there is one video in the end. And I'm happy for every one of you who is watching. I see Dhanushka, you're here. Thank you, man. Very happy to have you here. Maybe this would be like more or less like a private session for you, but again, the others can just watch it whenever they can. I could have moved it for tomorrow, but unfortunately, the next days and even the next week, I'm so full of work that I won't be able to fit it in. So I gotta do it today. This is like my last chance. Anyway, I'm happy that you are back. As many as you are, I'm always thankful. Let's continue where we left. And this was the topic of learning, one of the most important topics of this show. So I want to share with you a few tutorials that were posted in the group or around the group. First one of your boy here, it's about making holes in geometry with the help of distance mat. I talked about it by the end of the last episode of Keeping It Realistic, and it gained a lot of attention. This is why I decided to make it as a separate tutorial video that I just uploaded in the group. As you see, a lot of people already saw it and liked it. I just briefly mention it because some people came with the ideas that you cannot only use this distance material to place sockets, but let's say also spots on the ceilings and stuff like that. Yeah, this goes on me because I named it properly placing sockets on walls without adapting the wall geometry. Obviously, you can use this technique for whatever reason you feel like. Just be aware that the edges of the hole aren't really pretty. So as long as the geometry that you put in this hole covers the edges so that they're not visible, you can use it for whatever you want, for whatever you please, and it's always a very smart and quick solution. And that's it. So if you haven't checked it, check it just so that you can know how to do it in future. Next, we have another tutorial by Jihan. I didn't initially see that this is a tutorial, so this is why I'm showing this to you. He has just shared with us this clay model, and I thought this is just like a work in progress as he coded. But actually, if you follow the YouTube link, you will find out that this is an hour or more than an hour long tutorial where you learn how to make this scene more or less from scratch, the whole thing. And it's actually cool. When it comes to modeling, Jihan is really very, very strong. He makes wonderful models, so gladly go and follow this tutorial. Drop Jihan a like. It's in Turkish, but again, you can enable the automatic translated English subtitles and still watch it. And other than that, you just see what he's doing, so maybe try to follow up. And by the end of it, you have something which looks like this, or the scene that he has shared with us in the group. I think it's pretty rad. I really like it. So yeah, gladly follow this one. Next, we have another very important topic. It's about UV unwrapping, shared by Konstantinos from Mesh Mastery. He says, hi everybody, just shared a quick tutorial on UV unwrapping as a follow-up of the previous video where we modeled the mini board chair. There is a first part of this tutorial with the modeling, and then there is a second part where Konstantinos shows how to actually unwrap this chair to properly texture it. Afterwards, I watched it. It's very awesome. It's a very important topic, and in this video, Konstantinos goes on and explains a bit the idea and the basics of unwrapping. So it's more of a starter video, and it's really cool. So maybe follow the link, drop Konstantinos and Mesh Mastery a like or a follow. 2 hints for me, Konstantinos, if you're watching later. First thing is, if you have a tutorial like this where for 22 minutes you explain somebody how to do the unwrapping in a proper way, this is awesome. But I think it's a very good idea when by the end of it you actually show the final result so that the people see what this work was all for. And the second thing is, I think that you need eventually a better mic because the recorded volume is currently pretty low of this video, so maybe consider this. Also, this post by Konstantinos brought a bit some further ideas, and also the name of Rhythm Lab, which have a very cool unwrapping plugin that you can test for either Mac, Windows, or even Linux if you feel like this. So you can, if you want, go grab a demo of this. I'll share the link in the comments and test out if this is good, if this works for you, if this saves you time. I think that the full version costs around 35 bucks, so maybe it is worth investing in it if it really helps you and if you have a lot to do with unwrapping and so on. Abderrahman joined us. Hi man, glad to have you. Sorry for what happened, but I think this has been one major server issue on the side of Facebook. As far as I know, Instagram was also down. I don't know if it's up again, but I'm happy that we can still make our live. Katzpa is here. Hi man, we'll talk about your project later. By the end of this, actually. It should have been the end, or we should have actually already been finished if it wasn't for this maintenance by Facebook. Yeah, everything was down. Anyway, last but certainly not least, you remember how a few shows back in the chat we talked with Abdi, and he said that he plans to make a series of tutorials about Tyflow for ArchViz. He himself doesn't come from ArchViz, he's into motion graphic, VFX and so on, but being in this group which very strongly revolves around ArchViz, he wanted to make something like this, and now the first two tutorials of this series are out. He shared them in the group, the first one being Tyflow for ArchViz brief introduction, and the second one is physics-based particle simulation. I didn't watch both, I only watched one. They are quite long. The first one is half an hour, the second one is 44 minutes, but they are absolutely amazing, because the truth is, at least for me, and I know for a lot of other artists, Tyflow is often intimidating at the first glance. You see it and you're like, well, this is cool, but it looks complex, it's probably heavy on my system, and what do all those operators and windows and nodes do? I don't know, it's better leave my hands off it, which is a pity because Tyflow is a very, very powerful tool. And with what we have here by Abdi, in his first video, I watched it yesterday, it's like a brief introduction, but yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I talked with Abdi on this, and I said, yeah, why don't you do something like 5 minutes? And I think this is what he initially wanted, but you know, this is like a new piece of software. We didn't learn V-Ray or Corona or 3ds Max, Cinema or whatever SketchUp within 5 minutes, right? And what he does here is he shows like everything, where to go and get Tyflow from, how to install it, how to download it, how to implement it in 3ds Max, what the operators are for. So it's like a Tyflow for dummies. It's like this idiot-proof way of explaining, which I personally absolutely adore, because this way people just understand it. And I think what he tries to do really is to explain the logic behind Tyflow so that we can implement it. And I definitely recommend you to watch this, to invest the time. You won't be able to learn and improve if you are not eager to invest time and learn new stuff. But I think that if we watch this, I talk about us because I'm also not into Tyflow, but I want to be, and I really gladly watch these videos, and I'm very happy that Abdi actually decided to follow through on his promise and actually really make those videos. And to me, the time invested in them, even though they're half an hour, 45 minutes, or even an hour, is absolutely worth it, because this is just a very, very powerful tool which gives me a lot of flexibility as an artist, and I really want to have it in my skill set, and I really recommend this to you too as well. So gladly check out the tutorials. I even shared them also on my private page today. And yeah, let's show Abdi also some love, so maybe like them, or I don't know, subscribe to his channel or whatever, so that he's motivated to keep making more of these, because they're really, really awesome. And yeah, thanks for sharing them. Kaspar says, thanks to that issue, I returned from university on time. Well, Cool for you. Abderrahman, Tyflow is amazing. Feels like a middle ground for Max user than to learn something like Houdini. Yeah, I think so too. And Abderrahman continues, Tyflow, Phoenix FD, GrowFX, and thinking particles are really good for Max animations. Saves a lot of time learning more standalone tools. It's not only for animations, like just this bowl filled with a bread. You have the bowl, you have the bread, but if you want to place the bread manually, it will just take hours. And with Tyflow, you can literally do it in a few minutes, and it's easy. And I think that after those tutorials, you'll be able to. Like, I only watched the first one so far, and I can tell you that I think that now I can pull this off. I think that I'm already so far. So I'm very happy about this. I'm really, really happy and very thankful to Abdi that he decided to make this. And his English is perfectly understandable. His voice is very nicely deep and amazing to listen to. So yeah, gladly go and watch them. It's full recommendation on my side. Kasper says, I think you have already encouraged me. It's easy, man. It's really easy. And the way he does, he starts from literal zero. Like, where do you get the plugin, how to put it? He picks you up and you can just follow through. I haven't watched the second one so far, as I said, but I definitely will, because I want to learn Tyflow enough to be able to implement it for my needs in RVs. I don't want to animate or make extremely complex things, because Tyflow can be extremely complex. I just want to have a few further tools at my disposal when it comes to creating my scenes, and Tyflow definitely is a great tool, as Abderrahman says. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, which is the exercise that we currently have in the group, because we currently don't have a challenge. Instead, we have these small tasks that I personally came up with. This is not a chaos thing. This is not anything official. This is just me being a group member who just came up with a task that I hope that we all can profit from. I myself participated. The difference to a challenge is that, first of all, again, it's not official. There are no prizes whatsoever. But also there is no deadline, and also the scale of this task is way, way smaller. Like, for a challenge, you have to probably invest a day or two or a week, even depending on the scale of it. Whereas here, I did everything that I will show you within 2 hours, and I think that it could be even done in a quicker way. You also don't need anything more than your smartphone, and I assume every one of you has a smartphone. So yeah, this should be easy. This should be manageable and possible to be integrated in your daily life without you having to put too much effort into it. But I still hope that we can that we can learn out of it. I certainly, while doing my part of it, was confronted with some situations where I learned a bit. The topic is, there is a video where I explained all of this, and there is a post which is pinned atop of the group. The topic of the first of those exercises, if the exercises pick up, if you like them, I will come up with more ideas, but you can also suggest your own ideas. The first exercise is make a photo shoot of your workplace. You are there almost every day of the week. You spend a lot of time there, so you don't have to go anywhere else. You have your smartphone with you, I assume, so just take a few shots. The idea is, take the shots in a way that's attractive, that captures the essence, the feeling, the mood of your workplace. Then put them together to a collage, like I did here. This is the workplace that you see to the left behind me. And then share them as a comment under the post, as Dhanushka, Nikko, and Takur already did. Okay? It doesn't matter how expensive or cheap your rig or your workplace furniture or PC is. This is not what matters here. It's about capturing the essence of it. It could be like a luxury, very stylish studio, or it could be you working on the living room table with a small laptop. It doesn't matter. Nobody watches this. It's the quality of the photos that we concentrate on here. So don't be scared or don't be ashamed or whatever. Just take some good photos and share this with us. This is a very, very good exercise because when we do our 3D work, in the beginning, we model stuff, we texture it, we populate it, but at some point we become those virtual photographers. The thing is though, within the 3D software, we have maybe too much freedom. We can remove walls, we can remove furniture that's in the way, but in real life, photographers manage to actually deal with situations like this without having these almighty powers, and they still manage to make nice images. And the thing is, they have to deal with different types of spaces. Sometimes it will be a large luxury living, dining room, whatever. The next time it will be a small bathroom, and in both cases you have to deliver good images. And this is exactly what we have. It doesn't matter if you have the luxury studio or the small workplace in the middle of your living room. What counts is that you learn to deal with this situation in a realistic way with a real camera in your hands, and then create some images that are still nice, maybe even despite the situation what it is. Like in my case here, the lighting was awful. It was a gloomy gray day. It wasn't even nicely overcast, but I still went with it. This is what I had at my disposal, so I just had a bit of artificial lights turned on, as you can see, and these are the final results. On the first, I made 2 collages. The first one shows more of the workspace. The second one concentrates more on small details that are dear to me, that I like, that are part of my studio, and that's it. No, there is no true or false, wrong or right. It's just doing this, right? Dhanushka says, and Max's integrated cloth modifier takes a ton of time. Yeah, this is back for the Tyflow talk. Yeah, this is absolutely like this. Tyflow is actually can be really, really easy and a time saver. Kasper, could you show us the photos you took before? The photos I took before what? Please be a bit more specific, and I can show you if I have them at my right now around. But what I wanted to show you is some of you already participated here. First, we had Nikko participating. I read what he wrote. Hi Theo, here's my entry for this exercise. Just a simple working station setup. I took these shots around 4:30 a.m. because that's when I usually engage in activities I love, honing my skills before heading to my office. It's become a habit. The close-up shots highlight the most significant elements for me. By the way, I use my Sony a6000 camera with a 30mm Sigma lens. I typically use it as a hobby to capture moments with my family, and this is the first time I've used it to capture my working station. I hope this isn't the last time. I hope you start doing some object or some architectural photography, because this thing here is actually pretty awesome. I really like, I think that you very much capture the atmosphere that you describe here. Like it's this, your special corner where early in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, you get up, you go there, you have some light, you have your favorite objects, the candle, the crown, the Bible, whatever it is. Again, it's not about it. It's just that you can manage to very nicely capture the feeling of this place so that people can who see this can actually get that feeling and feel what you feel, what you describe. And this is to me a perfectly executed exercise. That's it. Kasper says sorry before modeling and rendering the stuff. Haha, you. Yeah, no. Anyway, back to the next, or furthermore to the next post. This is this time by Dhanushka. Let's hear what he has to say. Hi guys, hi Theo. This is where I work, just as you said, in the middle of the living room. Haha. Even though I work here now, I always run towards my room where my son will be. My wife goes to work and I'm staying at home dad. It's always 5 minutes of working and half an hour or more with him at the moment. I really hope that this doesn't bother you too much, Dhanushka, because this is an awesome time. I know it could be sometimes a bit infuriating when you try to do some work and then you have to go to the kid. But honestly, time runs so fast, and at some point you will dearly miss those moments and they never come back. So just enjoy them. I hope you do. And don't bother too much. 3D will wait for you. It will be always there, but kids grow up very fast. Anyway, this is done with iPhone 14 and I did a bit of editing in Photoshop. Cheers. what I really, really like about this one, first of all, so here Dhanushka had a bit of an issue. His workplace is in the middle of his home, right? So probably behind it we have a living room, which is like a private space, so to speak. And obviously he doesn't want to share this private space with strangers on the internet, because while the workplace is a workplace, the private space belongs to him and his family, and doesn't concern all the rest of us, right? So what he used here is the depth of field, right? With the depth of field, he focused on those things here, and the rest in the back is just blurry. So we see that his workplace is somewhere as a part of a bigger room, of a bigger space, but we don't get to see the details of it, which is actually awesome, because Dhanushka got to keep his privacy, the privacy of his family, but he was still able to share how his workplace is and where it's situated, that it is a part of a larger room, and things like that, which is awesome. And the second thing that I really love here is the small toy elephant, because this is the storytelling element of this session, because he talks about always going back to his son to spend time with him, and then coming back to work a bit, and then again going back to his baby. And so what he does is balancing between work and being a parent, and this is very, very visible here. So this is wonderful storytelling. I really enjoyed it. I see Abdi joined us. He says, finally back. Hi again, folks. Thanks for the mentioning of the tutorials. Much appreciated. Well, thank you for making them. And now here with our exercise, it gets even more exciting, because next we have Takua. Takua part 1. Hi guys. As you can see, I'm not good at photography. Also, the room where I work does not have natural lighting that much. Anyways, posting to participate in the exercise. And here is the image. And it sucks. Let's be honest, it does. It's just a bad image. Why? Because you see what he says. Yeah, I'm not good in photography, the lighting is bad, and tons of excuses. But I know that Takua is actually capable of a lot, so I actually invested some of my time to motivate him a bit, because we already had a project of his that we talked about during our show here, and I gave him feedback. He reworked it and showed it next time, and it was such an immense improvement. It was so awesome that I know that if he wants to, he can actually achieve what he's after. So yeah, I gave him a motivational talk, more or less, just you can do it. And he did. Just take a look at this. This is like a huge improvement. This is so much better. Let's see what he has to say now. Hi Theo. Took some new images after your suggestions. Hope you guys like this. This is the place where I spend my whole day working and playing games. Well, you know what? I could tell, because we see the mouse, the keyboard, we see the gamepad. So obviously you're playing there, and suddenly you can take photos, dear Takua. Just take a look at this. Let's compare the first one. First one didn't even have like straight and verticals. It was just a random shot, and it was not good. The second one, you actually did put in the effort, and it's visible. You tidied up a bit, you put the speakers on both sides of the monitor, you placed your joypad in front of it, and then you took some really nice central perspectives. Just look at this one. Look at the vignetting, look at the depth of field on this. This is a really good shot, Takua. So I think that looking at this, we can make a conclusion for the following two things. First of all, attitude can very much decide over success. Your attitude here was you had given up even before trying. You were just, this won't work, and it didn't. Then you changed your attitude. You were like, yeah, you know what? I can do it, and you did. And the second thing is that you really have to leave your comfort zone sometimes and put in the effort in order to improve. Because yeah, the first time you just took this one photo and that was it. The second time you actually put in the effort and it's visible. You took different shots, then you worked on them, then you try to see how you can pack them together to a collage, and it shows. It's really, really so much better. So I really hope that this inspires you, and gladly try it out on your workplace. And again, there is not a deadline, so if you submit your own collage, we'll gladly talk about it on the next show. Dhanushka says, thank you so much for the comment, Theo, means a lot. Well, it's, as always, it's honored. It's honest. I really appreciate that you like it. Gaspar says, sorry, my bad, I misunderstood. The challenge is same. I thought it was to recreate the room in 3ds Max. That's why I asked you for photos. Never mind. No, it's not to recreate. I wish I could visualize that realistically, but I'm good, but not as good, because there is a ton of detail here. But again, what I did here was very much helps me do what I do when it comes to 3D, because these are the same principles, these are the same ideas, it's the same approach, and it's always good to take a physical camera and use it in the real world to see how things actually work, how you can sometimes turn on some lights and so on, in order to to achieve better lighting or a better composition and so on. So experiment with it. Take more photos than needed. If you need 5 photos, take 50. Just let go. Try to make the best out of it, and just take a few photos of your workplace, make them to a collage, and share this with us. Again, it's not about the workplace itself. It's about the photos and about you learning while taking them. That's it. Enough about this exercise, but I really hope to see your contributions, your submissions in future. Abdurrahman says, that way you learn how to focus on one object and make it as good as possible. Oh, no, he started elsewhere. We can try a challenge of visualizing smaller things like microphotography or a small object. That way you learn how to focus on one object and make it as good as possible. Of course we can. I gladly will gather all the topics or your suggestions, and the next exercise we have after this one is finished at some point, we can just do microphotography. Why not? Or microphotography. Okay. Let's move on and start talking about projects, because time is running and I don't want to hold you here the whole time. First, we have Dhanushka's project, this one. We just saw his workplace, now let's see what he uses this for. He writes, hey guys, it's been a while and today I'm presenting you one of my last year projects. This one is a personal one. I was searching for a good Formula One model for a while now and finally got one and had to render it and see. The inspiration behind this project was pure curiosity whether to see I could achieve the results I wanted. I'm really happy with the set and I hope you also enjoy them. Software used is 3ds Max and Corona. Postscriptum, in case you are wondering how I achieved the distorted blue light effect in the first shot, all I did is I brought a glass plane in front of the camera and adjusted the absorption color to get the blue tint and played with the reflection IOR to get the separation of the light. Have a lovely day. Wonderful description, dear Dhanushka. We have some info about the project background, there is some technical info, but also the workflow that you have used, especially this last part. It's awesome that you share this. As for the image presentation, we always talk about it. I really like it. We have very nicely varied angles and also nice image consistency. The first one may look a bit different, but it's for a good reason, so it's cool. I really like how this project is no ArcVis. This is always cool because it's a bit something different. Also, it's also not a classic automotive shot, which is to me even cooler because it's not just some car out there in on the street, but it's a Formula One car, which is a special type of car and indoors with this special type of lighting. So it's pretty cool. Generally speaking, if we go to the shots quickly, I think that you have made a very fitting scene to present a Formula One car in. It's abstract enough, which makes it interesting, but it's also authentic enough so that it makes sense, because oftentimes Formula One cars are presented in spaces similar to this one. So let's take a look at the shots one by one, starting with this one, which is obviously a really cool shot. To me, it looks like you said how you did it. You did it by placing this glass panel with some absorption color and refraction and bump to it in front of the camera. And this is why it actually looks like a combination of a lens filter. And this is something that I would gladly share with you here. It's an article about lens filters and how they can be used. Maybe this gives you a bit of ideas on how you can change the look of your works. There are very, very interesting filters that we can all simulate. And the other thing that this image reminds me of is the double exposure technique, which is also pretty awesome. It had a very popular phase some years back. Everybody was doing it, but even if it's not as popular or modern nowadays, it's still a great technique. So yeah, maybe do some reading on those two. Abdurrahman says, anyone here ever emulated lenses in 3ds Max using caustics and lenses? I haven't, but it doesn't sound like something that I would gladly do. Yeah. Caustics I only or mostly use with water or when I really want to achieve the caustic effect, but caustics usually make the scenes kind of heavy, so I try to avoid them if possible. Now, back to the image here, the resulting color mix because of the blue piece of glass in front of the camera is pretty cool because it adds blue to the scene, and we have red here, so we have this blue-red, cold, warm contrast, which is awesome. I really like how the blue is layered here atop of the car, and you have some red being layered up here where we only have blue otherwise. This is pretty cool. Now, obviously, an overlay like this makes the image a bit confusing. Now, in your case, it's a wanted effect, but still it could be confusing. So in order to maybe make it even more obvious that it is something that you wanted to achieve and not something that went wrong with the photo, maybe consider adding a slogan, a logo, some lettering or something. I experimented with it a bit. Something like this, you know, the Audi Sport, the Audi logo, the rings, something like this. Maybe it will make it even more obvious that this effect is a deliberate one and not just something that went wrong while shooting. Now let's move on to the next shot, which is the top view that I really, really like. We have a very clean composition here. We have a good framing. Obviously we have, and this is for two reasons. First of all, we have a good composition, and this is for two reasons. First of all, it's the very nice framing. I really like the synergy, the interplay between those, how do we call them, dashed lines on the floor and the car. You see by the arrows here on the side that the symmetry line of this image is rather here. So you put your car down a bit from the symmetry line. It's not on it, it's underneath it, because on the upper half of the image we have those reddish dashed lines. So this makes for a very nice balance, and that the image is not completely symmetrical is actually pretty cool. Next thing is the great lighting. First of all, we have the most concentrated light in the middle where we actually want the viewer to see this. The things that I really like here is that we have a very clear contrast. You see how even in the darker areas, the silhouette of the car, of the tires that are dark themselves, is very nicely visible. And also the color situation you pulled off really nicely, because you see how everything starts to get darker towards the edges, starts to get darker, desaturated, but the car itself keeps its saturation, which is really cool. So I really like this shot, and more or less the same can be said for the next shot as well. It's really good, very similar to the previous one. What I like here a lot is this light strip reflection that you have in the back, because first of all, it kind of follows the form of the car, but in a more geometric way. And the second thing is that it adds a bit of dynamic to the shot. Without it, I would miss something there, but with it, it's really good in my opinion. Next we have the angle view, and I must admit that I'm not a huge fan of this one because the composition is kind of all over the place. It looks kind of random, you know, there is no definite focus. Maybe it needs some depth of field, but going back to the shots, we can see we have a top view, we have a side view, we have a front view, but what we don't have is like a diagonal view. So if I were you, instead of a shot like this, I would just take this camera that we have here and turn it 45 degrees to the right, or keep the camera target and then take it as a center of rotation and turn the camera just 45 degrees to the right, so that we get this nice diagonal shot of the car instead of a shot like this one. And if the model is good enough, you can then maybe zoom in on certain elements like the rear view mirrors, for example, and then make close-ups on them. This would be my recommendation. And last, we have the front view, which we more or less already had with the very first shot. This time we don't have the lens effects, however. Obviously a good shot, a classic shot for Formula 1 cars like this. Nice composition. One thing that's bothering me, however, is this, I don't know if it's a poster or a screen in the back, because especially the F1 part of it, which is so close to the car and kind of interferes with it, kind of becomes a visual part of it, I find distracting. So maybe it would be better if this part here was more laid back and didn't have so much. So something like this. You see, I removed the screen and just placed an Audi logo there. I think it works better this way. Gladly let me know what you think. Yeah, and with this being said, I think that we are through with this project. Really cool one. It's visible that you had fun with it. I know projects like this recharge the creative batteries, so yours must really be full, because this looks like fun. And now we can move on to Gael's work. Gael is fairly new to the group. I hope I pronounce his name correctly. He shares with us here a reproduction of an existing interior scene. Let's hear what he has to say. Hi guys, I've been working on this render in my free time based on an existing reference. Would love to get your tips on how I probably can improve it, as I'm not yet 100% satisfied. Thank you all. Nice description, really good. It's very informative, it's very polite, which I personally always enjoy a lot. Just please in future add your software combination that you've used, and if you say that you're not satisfied with something, then maybe be a bit more specific about what that something is. Is it the lighting? Is it the photorealism, the composition, the materials, whatever it is? Just be more specific so that people can also provide you more specific feedback. Cool thing, Danny provided feedback. By the way, you have been very, very active, both in the group as well as in the chat of the Keeping It Realistic show. So much feedback has been provided, so much help. It's really awesome to see. It fills really my heart with joy. And Amit has been very, very active in the group, providing feedback. I don't know if he's here today, but shout out to him. Anyway, back to the review. To me, the image looks very realistic, very authentic. I like it. We can check it against the original reference. This is the original. I think it holds up really nicely, really good. And now let's talk about the single points, starting as usual with the modeling. Modeling is fine with me. It makes sense. It has a good amount of detail. The assets that you have used as replacements for the original assets, I find to be mostly really, really good, with one exception where I'm not exactly sure what, I'm a bit conflicted, and it is this lamp up here. Now, in the original, we have those lamps which don't fit the architecture or certain elements of the architecture, like the ceiling or the legs of those tables, that well as yours do, because you know we have stripes here on your lamps, on the ceiling, on the legs of the coffee tables. So the lamps, on the one hand, they really fit the architectural style. At the same time, however, they are kind of too prominent, too bold. The original ones have this nice warmth, this nice self-made feeling to them, which kind of feels more genuine, and kind of fits the location more, in my opinion, whereas those three here look more like something that belongs in a big Western city. This is just a subconscious feeling of mine, but this is how I see it. And yeah, definitely you need this rattan lamp in the corner for the same reasons, because it looks a bit more organic, a bit more self-made, and it provides the scene and the corner here with this warm, nice lighting that you miss in your case. Material-wise, materials look really good to me. Add a lot of realism to your scene, especially the floor. It's absolutely awesome, both the tiles and this rattan rug here. What you can do to maybe improve them a bit is that you can fine-tune your browns. If you take a look at the original scene, it's more beige than brown, but it doesn't matter. You see how the rattan lamp, this shelf here, the coffee tables, the rattan rug, the wood here, they almost have all the same color. Whereas in your case, the carpet here or the rug is more yellowish, and the tables are more on the reddish side. So I think if you fine tune your browns, you have an even more harmonic final result. And then the wood behind the sofa, on the backrest of the sofa, this is obviously a small detail, but look how nicely it looks, how nice it looks in the original photo, because it has these weathering effects, these imperfections to it, dirt. So if you have this, you get a bit where the wood shows around the edges, you get this brownish wooden color from here. You'll get it also here, and also it will play against the monotony of this backrest. So, but that's about it, to be honest. Lighting wise, the lighting works. It's pleasant. It's not quite balanced as the original. There is a small difference. You see how in the original, if we take a look at this diagonal here, we have a very bright spot from the reflections from the outdoors here in the bottom right corner. But to counter it, as a counterweight to it, in the top left corner, we also have a bright spot. In your case, here you also have the bright spot coming as a reflection from the outside, but here the upper left corner is very, very dark. So you're missing the counterweight there. So this is probably one of the elements that makes you a bit dissatisfied. And also generally try to add a bit of this, more of this warm lighting. We already talked about the rattan lamp in the corner. It will also change the balance in your image. Framing, it's given by the original shot, so it doesn't make much sense to talk much about it. However, your verticals aren't straight, so you can see it here. This is how it looks like with straightened verticals. If you do it in the post-production, the image tends to get a bit distorted, a bit squished together, so you can maybe just make it a bit larger, or just fix it with your camera in your 3D software. And the last point, the background, a point where I'm very proud of you for this one. You said you don't have a superpower PC, so you had to work smart. What you really did, instead of scattering tons of plants on the outside, you just used a fitting image with some self-illumination, I assume. It worked like charm. You see the reflections are there, not only in the pool, but also on the inside. It looks very authentic. It looks very close to the original, and you saved a lot of resources and render time. So this is amazing. And all in all, great reproduction. My suggestion, don't let this be the last and the one and only shot out of it. Maybe make some close-ups, maybe some further angles, and turn this single shot into an actual portfolio project. And with this, we can move on to Simon, but I'll quickly take a look at the comments. Dhanushka says, thank you, Theo, for the review. Agree with you on all points, and now I want to do some close-ups. Yeah, please do. Please do. Hamed says, so nice work. Yes, it's a really nice work. This is why I chose to talk about it. It's a really good reproduction. Next, we have Simon with something very interesting and a project which is made in Rhino. And as a former Rhino user, I'm always happy to see this. Let's see what Simon has to say. Let me check the comments to see if he's here. He was there on the previous show, but unfortunately there was a Facebook maintenance. So yeah, I guess he's not here anymore, which is a bit of a pity, because I was very much looking forward. It is the first time since the show is on air, for the last 6 months, that I will be talking about a project made by Simon, so I was very much looking forward to him being in the comments. But Simon, if you watch the recording later, I still hope that you enjoyed. Let's take a look what you have to say. Hi all, these are some images that I created for a competition in Greece and it won the third prize. Congrats. The purpose was to create a new skin and the refurbishment of the old buildings in order to introduce new usages and offices for the water company of the city. Our main goal was to create a pleasant yet sustainable place with public space and plazas. It was hard for us because we were only 3 people in different cities of the world working overtime for this. Main model was used in Rhino and some context for the area was imported from Google Earth in Blender, which is the render doc trick. I'm not sure how legal this is, so I don't want to talk more about it. But yeah, it's a render doc trick. If you Google it, you'll find it. Do it at your own risk. V-Ray for rendering and assets were mainly from Chaos Cosmos library. A bit of post in Photoshop too. Feedback always welcome. Thank you. Awesome description. This is really a good example of how to properly present your work. We have the backstory of it, we have the goal of it, the software combination used, the workflow, everything that one needs as an input is there. And it's not only about providing feedback for the show, it is also for the others that see those images and think, wow, how did he make this? And then they go through it and read about it and they know. And this way we profit from each other and learn from each other. Image presentation is also very, very good in my opinion. We have nicely varied angles and also very consistent looks, which is awesome. Really enjoy this. So we can take a look at this. I see Gael responded, so let me quickly read this out loud before we move on talking about Simon's work. He says, "Thank you so much, Theo. This will dramatically help me. You're absolutely right on each point. Your feedback is so valuable." Oh, people, this praise. Thank you. Sure, I will include the software and additional details on my future post, and I will definitely improve my render and work on additional close-ups. Once again, thank you. You're very welcome. It was a pleasure. My dad is here again. This is cool. He's ill at home and he could watch the show one time from start to finish, and then there was a drop by Facebook, but I'm happy that he's back again here. Okay, and get well soon. Let's talk about the images. Best way to do so will probably be to talk about the shots one by one. Let's start with the bird view. Just so you know, a general piece of information, bird view shots are great to showcase the city planning aspects of a project. Like for example, you see here, there is something, you see this building block, it's made out of single buildings, but it's one block. And what it has is something which is city planning term, it's called an urban edge. This is this edge here. And as you can see from the bird view, the new building kind of takes this urban edge in consideration and runs with it and kind of has its form oriented to this urban edge. And there are some aspects of the city planning that you can only really show with the help of an aerial shot or a bird view shot, which is of course great. And other than that, it's of course a very informative shot because we see the project scale, we see a lot about the infrastructure, like where those plazas are that Simon talks about in his description, the parking lots, the streets, the entrance area, all of this is immediately visible. Also, one other very important point, especially when it comes to urban design and city planning, it's how this new building integrates in the surroundings. Now, if it was one of the buildings here, it probably wouldn't have been that important and a street view shot would have done it justice. But with a project like this, especially with a solitary one, it very much makes sense to make a bird view shot. So good idea about making this. Also, you have included the Google Earth surroundings, which is a very smart choice because first of all, it provides you with authentic looking surroundings, the surroundings the way they are. And it also, of course, saves you time instead of having to build all the single buildings here one by one with all the small detail. You can now just place the Google model around your model and then you have natural surroundings. Of course, it's not that you just grab the stuff out of Google Earth. There is a workaround that we mentioned in the beginning talking about this project, so I won't mention it again, but it's still quicker than creating all these buildings here from scratch. On the flip side, however, Google Earth has crappy mesh, and I think it's immediately visible here. Especially near the camera, you definitely see it. There are two solutions here. So the first one you actually already implemented. With the help of greenery, like trees, bushes, shrubs, and so on, you can actually very much unify the imported Google model, because, you know, Google models come with those blob-looking trees. They are awful. We see a bit of this here, down here. So if you erase the mesh, if you remove the mesh there and then replace those trees with your 3D model trees, you get this unifying effect where your 3D model and the Google surroundings are fused together in a more harmonic way. You already did this. This is a thumbs up for sure. The second solution for a situation like this, once you have the final image, is actually to improve the looks of it with the help of AI and in painting. Now, there are different ways to go about this. When I talk here in the show, I usually, the topic is AI, I usually try to talk more about stuff which is free, like Stable Diffusion, in comparison to, let's say, Magnific AI or something like this. So before the show today, I actually took 20 minutes to play around with your scene and see how much better it can actually become. I hope you're okay with this. So this is your image with the Google surroundings and the crappy mesh and textures. And this is what I was able to do within 20 minutes. And as you can see, it's pretty much way better. Now, it's not very accurate everywhere, but at first glance, especially, it looks way better. And especially for a competition like this, no one will go there and take a small ruler and try measuring the buildings and comparing them to the real life ones. So I think that a solution like this, what you see here, is actually better than what we have here. And again, I only spent 20 minutes on it. I wasn't very careful how to do it. I just wanted to quickly have a result that I can show to you today, because I thought we would have the show at one piece. But it didn't happen the way I planned it to. Nevertheless, a result like this I achieved in around 20 minutes. And I think if you are more careful, if you spend more time with it, you can actually be even more precise with the help of ControlNet and make an even more authentic and more precise final result. But still, given the time frame, I think that the leap from this to this is huge, and I really think it pays off. So this is one great usage of AI. If you're in the comments, let me know what you guys think about the difference between those two images. And in the meantime, I'll just move on with my review, talking about the lighting. I think the lighting that you chose here is very wisely chosen, because it's this early evening lighting. So we have some atmospheric low sun, which is great because it produces some really nice atmosphere, soft, warm lighting. But it's coming from the back of your building, and the front, which is facing the camera, is in the dark, but not like a really night dark. It's just a very late afternoon, very early evening dark type of dark. But it gives the facade the chance to be lit up from behind, which is, I think, a major part of your architectural concept. So with one image, you manage to make a day version of this shot while still showing how the translucency of your facade. So very nicely done. And generally speaking, I would say a lot of effort and attention has been put into this project, into this scene, and it really shows, and it pays off, in my opinion. Next, we have the atrium scene. This is your favorite shot, as you told me. It's indeed a very pleasant situation. We have this extensive greenery everywhere, which makes it obviously very inviting and like a great place to spend your lunch break at, obviously. Personally, I have some issues with this shot. When it comes to the scatter geometry, I don't like how repetitive it is. If we take a look at this part, you will see that we all have the same plants above each other on every floor. This is a bit of a pity. And also the plants are like idealistically large. You see they are placed atop of those concrete slab extensions made out of metal. So there obviously isn't enough space for soil there. So you will never be able to grow such humongous plants on just on a thin metal plate, right? So in the end, if the architecture stays the way it is depicted, it will probably be short grass or moss or something, and not this jungle-like plants or greenery in general, or you have to adapt the architecture a bit, but yeah. Also the interiors above ground level look kind of empty, which is a bit of a pity. Here it's cool, but up here they look kind of empty. And also the lighting can be massively improved if you ask me. It's great that you decided to show that sunlight can reach this courtyard, this atrium. This is cool, but first of all, this sunny area, it's overexposed, like it's too wide. And then we have this, let's call it auditorium down here, and the lighting of it is too basic. Like you have a rectangular light on the ceiling and call it a day. I know this is a competition. Competitions usually don't have perfect visualizations to them, but if you maybe before you add the project to your portfolio in definite way, maybe rework the lighting down here, make it a bit more exciting. Let's move on to the next shot, which I really like. This is the entrance on the back side of the building, so this is somewhere here. I really like this one. It's a very architectural shot. It's a beautiful image. It shows the facade, it shows the architecture. I really enjoy it a lot. The soft, pleasant lighting is really cool. The architecture, again, I'm a fan. The natural framing that you have achieved with those branches coming into the image is great. The cropping, in my opinion, could be extended downwards a bit. I tried it out, and let's see how it is. Yeah, this is how it turned out. I think that the composition this way looks better, even though Generative Fill did a really poor job with extending the image. Nevertheless, I think that this is a great shot. It could just be improved a bit in terms of framing. Next, we have a shot that I call the beauty. Really like this one, very architectural one, nicely shows the facade structure. However, a shot like this is also the reason why I don't trust visualizations. Because if you take a look at this, one gets the impression that, you know, when you're somewhere on those balconies, you will be facing, let's say this is like a building on a hill, and when you're on the balcony, you'll be overlooking the city, and you have wide, uninterrupted view in front of you. But if we take a look at this, you see it's one cut, two cuts, and two balconies, and this scene is actually here. This is this area, so the two cuts and the two balconies. So when you're on a balcony there, you'll just be looking at the ugly facades on the opposite side of the street. But this shot suggests very much otherwise. Again, there is nothing wrong with that. This is something that we 3D artists do in order to show our buildings or whatever we're supposed to visualize from its best side. But of course, it's on the ethical side. It's like not the most sincere shot. Let's put it like this. And then we have a main entrance shot. Another great image. I really like the early blue hour lighting and the sweet, warm, the cold contrast, the cold outdoor exterior and the warm and the inside. It's also very inviting this way, because people usually look for areas that are warm, especially with everything around is cold. They want to go where it's warm, so it's great to see it this way. Generally also the atmosphere is very pleasant. Sure, the street can use a bit more detail, but the way it is, it's cool. And once again, wonderful work, Simon. When you watch the recording, please let me know what you think about the review, what you think about the AI version of your bird view. And once again, congrats to you and your mates for what you put off here, and your third prize seems very deserved. Next we have Thanish. I see Amit joined us. Hi man. I said it before, but I'll gladly say it once again. I see you've been very active providing feedback, so that's awesome. Huge shout out to you. Let's take a look at Tanish's work. It's been a while since we saw work of his, and I'm always happy to see this. This time it's an awesome villa deep in the woods. Let's see what he writes. Sharing something here after a long time, indeed. 100% CGI, no AI used. Yeah, if you use AI, please, there is nothing wrong with that as long as the image isn't just an AI generated image, because there is no point in talking about it, because what should I talk about? Prompts. But if you use, let's say, AI to enhance your image, please write it to your, or add it to your descriptions, and because maybe some people, some other artists or group members will be curious to know what exactly you did here and there. So 100% CGI, no AI used, created with 3ds Max and V-Ray 6. The post-production is in Photoshop. It's been a while working on a personal project. Took the amazing project called Tufino Beach House by Olsen Kundig Architects and created a different environment for a CG study. The render details is 2.5 by 2K at 1500 samples and 0.01 noise limit. It took 2 hours and 13 minutes render time on V-Ray GPU and RTX 1390. The render time exceeded the expectations due to high poly environment assets from Megascans and the V-Ray fog. I mean, to be honest, in this size with so much volumetrics, I don't think that 2 hours is that long, to be honest. Comments and suggestions are welcomed. Well, this is exactly what we will do. Amit says, thanks mate, always ready to help the group and learn myself from them. Yeah, this is how it should be. This is the principle of a good 3D community. In the chat, again, there has been a lot of help. Sometimes, you know, artists are more on the receiving end. It's just important, and when you receive feedback, then try to pay it forward, try to give back to the community, and when you can, gladly help others. Now, let's talk about Tanish's work. First of all, the presentation. Another great example of really, really good description. We have a backstory, we have the goal, we have the tech info with the render setup, the PC specs. The image presentation is also nice, but in this case, it's not like a more than one image from a project. It's like 2 versions of it because it's more of a study. So there's not a big point to talk about the image presentation, and we can dive right into the images. Now, with a project like this, it doesn't matter which of the 2 versions we look at. I would say the main goal of it is not the architecture itself or presenting the architecture itself. It's more sharing or creating an atmosphere or mood. So the question here is not how does the architecture look like? It's where is it situated? How do the surroundings look like? How does it interact with them? Oh, I had a how once again. So yeah, let's take a look at the single shots, starting with this God Ray version. I think we can all agree that this image has a very, very positive vibe to it. It looks cozy, it's welcoming, it's optimistic. And if you have encountered something like this in real life, you were, I don't know, on a vacation or you were hiking somewhere, and then you encountered a situation like this, you know that it's scientifically impossible to be sad or melancholic or depressed while seeing something like this. It's just energizing, it's positive, it's optimistic, and I think that Thanish did a great job depicting this. The volumetrics are beautiful, not only the God rays, which by the way, this nice horizontal dynamic in an otherwise very vertical image, which is a great contrast, but they also very nicely look at the volumetrics look great in this area in the front because they make everything look humid, like it's morning dew or something, which is of course very authentic to a place like this. So all in all, I would say the first rendition of this scene is a feel-good shot, greatly pulled off, awesome. The second one is maybe even more interesting because it has this very interesting, pleasant atmosphere, which is, I have a bit of a hard time to define if this is like just very, very foggy or if it's like early, gloomy evening. Nevertheless, whatever it is, the chimney smoke is a great detail to it, and this image is structured in a different way than this one. Here, it's everything is just about the emotion. Here with this one, because of this awesome dark to bright contrast, you have everything about just being kind of coldish or desaturated and more on the dark side, and then you have the warm lit up interior. This nicely brings the focus to the house, but on the flip side, I think that for this, the interior is kind of too far away and maybe too small to properly view. And in a situation like this, I would actually suggest going for something more like what I did here on the cover image, bringing the camera closer to the house so that the viewer can actually see what happens on the inside. Because in the way it is now, what we see is that there is an inside, but we have to zoom in to see it. So I think it would be a better idea to show something like what we have here, this contrast between the wild, dark, gloomy forest and the warm, cozy, inviting interior. So my suggestion here is to zoom more in on the house so that the interior is actually visible and perceivable. And of course, with a scene like this, I would always suggest making additional angles. Something like just imagine placing the camera somewhere here so that you have some blurry greenery, dark greenery in the front, which makes for a awesome natural framing. And then you concentrate, let's say, on the dining table for a central perspective shot. I think this could look really amazing. So Thanish, if you're listening, it's an awesome exercise. If you decide to take more shots, which I really recommend, please share them here in the group. Next, we have Nikko. Nikko has gotten a lot of help and feedback in the group. Time to give back, man. But Nikko is also somebody who's listening to this feedback. He doesn't just, ask questions. Some artists do this, and it's kind of annoying, to be honest. They ask questions, people answer them, and then they start defending their work and saying why they won't do what people suggested, which is kind of pointless as a whole process, to be honest. But Nikko is not one of those artists. He actually very much listened to the feedback. So this is what he came up with, and it's actually very cool. It's another reproduction. I see Thanish is here. Cool. Glad to have you here, man. Says, thank you so much. We'll definitely try your suggestions. Yeah, looking forward to this. If you do, please share them again in the group. Now, let's hear what Nikko has to say about his work. Hello everyone, I wanted to share my latest work, a personal project based on references. The goal of this project is to achieve results as close as possible to the reference. Please check the comments to see the original photo reference. I've also included some close-up shots. Thank you to those who provided suggestions and feedback to improve this. I've tried to incorporate them as best as I can. You really did. Softwares used is 3ds Max, Corona and Photoshop. Today seems to be a good description day because this is another really cool description that I really enjoyed. Very informative, very good. The image presentation is also great. We have nicely varied angles and also great visual consistency here. So let's take a look at the shots. I will show you, maybe before we start, let's take a look at the reference. This is it. So you see Nikko pretty much nailed this. He did a really good job. Both images are fairly similar, and in some instances I even like yours a bit more. But let's take a look. We will go through the whole project point for point, starting with the modeling, which looks solid and detailed enough. We can see on some close-ups like here that there are nicely chamfered edges and so on, and this is absolutely more than enough. The assets that you have used as replacements are also really good, and this is one of the cases where I said what I said. Let's take a look at this statue, for example. This one looks like indefinite blob. I don't know what this is. I don't like it that much, and I definitely like the bust that you have chosen as a replacement way more. There is one big exception though when it comes to those replacements where you did a very poor job. And this is, just take a look at the original, right? What we have here, I'll zoom in on that. What we have here is the awesome Dennis Hopper photographed by Andy Warhol. And this is like an amazing photo session. You can see some of the shots here. It's just cool, right? And what did you replace Dennis Hopper with? Steve Jobs. Come on, man. You can do this. So I think you really have to redo this. Everything else is awesome. Now, jokes aside, let's go to the material part. Materials are mostly good. You really nicely captured the color palette of the original. There are two exceptions, or not exceptions, but two materials that can be improved. First of them being the wood. Your wood, in terms of color, is fairly similar, maybe a bit more reddish, but that's okay. However, it has the vertical pattern of it is very, very strong, which adds like vertical dynamic and almost directionality to your shots, and you actually don't need that. The original also has some vertical pattern, but it's way more subtle. So my suggestion, I know you already have this in your portfolio, I saw the PDF, it looks really nice. My suggestion, re-render this because it will look better. And the second thing, which is the main reason to re-render, especially the shots where the carpet is visible, the carpet doesn't look good. It looks like it has motion blur in this area. And generally speaking, I don't think that this is an apartment. I think that this is something more like an office or something. And in an office, you would never have a long hair carpet floor, because this is just incredibly difficult to maintain, because people walk there with their shoes from the outside, bringing all the dirt in. So it makes sense that in the original, it's a different type of carpet floor, even though admittedly this one isn't that much easier to maintain. But yeah, initially you had made it like this, and I think I was the one who told you to actually change it because it looked splotchy, as I called it, because I didn't know the original reference. But now that I see it, I think it makes more sense the way you had already had it. You gotta know that these are the white areas or the white spots are, I assume, footprints. So if you try to do this, you see how there are no footprints down under the table. So in order to achieve a material like this, you probably have to work with a distance material so that you isolate the area which is beneath the table. Yep. So this was about the materials. Other than that, I really like them. The lighting is very close to the original. The original is maybe a bit better and stronger exposed, but other than that, fairly similar. The background fits the scene. I don't like the background in the original. This one isn't much better, but it definitely fits. So it's a pass. And now let's talk about the framing. The first shot, the framing here is given. So let's move on to the second one. It's the bust close-up, as I call it. I really like it. Great shot, sweet depth of field, no noise, good focus. It's also nicely balanced and framed. There is only one issue here. I don't hate Steve Jobs. I just think that he was a bit of a scumbag. He was a good designer, but his personality isn't my favorite. And again, given that initially we had Dennis Hopper here, I think it would have been the better choice. Also, it would better fit the other books that you have, because, you know, you have Bauhaus, you have Picasso and things like that. So I think that Andy Warhol's album is the better choice for a book, which is that prominent. Okay, let's move on to the next shot, which is kind of a top view. It's definitely an interesting angle, and actually the cropping of it is pretty solid. However, what I miss here is a clear focus, because the main actor of this shot is kind of not really defined. There are lots of nice elements like the lamp, the bows here, the bust, the vase, whatever, but they are all kind of around the corners, and in the middle central area we have almost nothing apart from this, whatever this is. It's like a tile with a black bow on it. Yeah, it's very indefinite. So what I think you should do is use this chair and make it be your main actor. To do this, you see how everything here currently is very orthogonal to each other, right? So it is almost too neat and too tidy. If you take this chair back and then turn it a bit around so that it is expecting somebody to sit in it and then pull it back in, it will be an element of storytelling, and also it will break this orthogonal monotony of the rest. And I think that it can then grow up to be the main actor of a shot like this. So maybe check it out. Also, you have these two empty shells here. If you don't want to have prominent objects in them, like these bowls or the lamp or white books, then take something like grayish boxes or something that you can just put in. I think this will work without ruining your composition. And then we have the lamp close-up, which it made it to the cover of today's show. So obviously a good shot. It has sweet depth of field on it. Again, good focus. Again, nicely balanced and framed. And now let's think back to the beginning of the second part of our show when we talk about our exercise and where I praised Nikko's shots a lot. I will actually go back and show this once again. Now this is Dhanushka's. These are Nikko's shots. And I praise this because it's really, really nicely done. And now we are back here and Nikko's close-ups, and I praise them as well. Do you see the connection between those two? Once you get the feeling, once you're good at photography, you start making good shots, good, nicely composed, lit up, and so on, you can easily transfer this knowledge into your 3D work, and you'll definitely profit from it. So yeah, obviously very solid reproduction. Again, if I were you, Nikko, I would re-render at least the shots with the carpet and try to get back to the carpet that you initially had. Sorry for misguiding you in this regard. I just didn't know the original reference. And if you have the time to re-render them all without this strong verticality of the wooden material, it would be even better. Keep the angles and everything, maybe change the chair situation on the third one, and you have a great portfolio project on your hands, in my opinion. And with this, we are at the last project for today. It's Kacper's project. I think it's the first one. Did I pronounce it correctly, Kacper? I think this is the first one, the first time that we talk about a project of yours, man. I saw you in the comments earlier. I hope you are still there. So let's see what you have to say about this. It's a commercial work, as far as I can tell. Hello, I thought I could share my latest project. The name is 924 or 924. Pretty cool name. The purpose, creating an eye-catching dynamic image in an overcast scenario and complement it with warm orange lighting. Software used is 3ds Max, Corona and Photoshop. Any feedback is appreciated. PS, I also send a backyard camera in the comments section. Okay, cool. Very good description. Today really seems to be my lucky day, or maybe I choose the projects with the best descriptions to talk about. We'll never know. Image presentation wise, the main shot is pretty cool. I think there is a reason that you decided not to just include both images in your initial post, but to include the second one as a comment. But we'll talk about it later. So let's review the shots one by one, starting with a street view, which I actually very, very much like. Because what we have here is some really nice solid modeling both on the house and the surroundings. I really like, it's a small element, but it's actually, it has a big impact. I really like how you opened the gates here. First of all, it shows us more from the house, which is always a great thing. But what's more, this is a very inviting gesture to the viewer. It's like, hey, it's open, come right in. And this is always cool. Also, great to see some interior here. It makes for this nice lived-in feeling. If you want to take it further, I suggest adding a bit some assets on the terrace here, something like a folded sunshade, because it's already autumn. You don't need it to be open. Maybe some bigger plants that are visible here, just to make it again more lived in. Modeling wise, there seems to be a geometry issue. It's visible on the material, but it's a geometry issue somewhere here, so you maybe need to check the geometry here. Also, there is a curb on the street. It's visible behind the Ferrari, but it gradually just submerges itself and gets buried underneath the asphalt, which actually isn't the way it usually is in real life. Usually you still have some curbs like 1 centimeter or something above street level. So I would let it re-emerge back up if I were you. Material wise, I really enjoy the color palette. Here you said something about an image overcast scenario complemented with warm orange lighting. I wouldn't necessarily say that there is orange lighting. On the inside there is, but on the outside it's just this warm autumn atmosphere that you have achieved here. Material wise, other than that, again, the autumn palette is great. There is some repetition on those wooden planks. You can easily fix that with the help of UV double randomizer in Corona on your wooden material. But that's it. Lighting wise, the lighting again may not be very emotional, but it lets the materials and the colors nicely stick out, and it also fits the season. The framing is also pretty good. You have this nice clean central perspective. There is this natural framing on the sides. The car adds some really nice dynamic, and the color of it actually fits. Oftentimes a Porsche will be a Ferrari will be a bit over the top, but in this case it really fits. Even the interior of it fits nicely into the color palette, so I think it's a good choice in this case, and the motion blur on it just adds a bit of dynamic. Now there is also dynamic on the falling leaves here. However, the way you have depicted them is distracting because they look kind of massive and heavy and very dark. I have a reference for you, another autumn project, visualization project. You see the leaves here and here. They look way more lightweight, like they're really light and just falling down. And they're also brighter and more colorful. So please redo those. Also, there is a motion blur on the tree, and I get the logic behind it. It's like some wind came and the tree started trembling, and this is why also the leaves started falling. But thinking about it a bit further, I don't think that wind can be so local just for the right tree but not for the tree on the left. So if you have motion blur on the trees, then I think or both or on none. Like on this example here, you see how there is no motion blur on the trees but only on the leaves, and it's still very much okay. So but if you definitely need motion blur, then make it on both trees. And one last thing, it's late autumn, right? We see these very red trees. Trees don't get that red on the first days of autumn. It's late autumn when they look like this. And for very late autumn, I think you need more fallen leaves on the street, on the grass, on the walkways, and less on the trees. And how you do this, you just take a multi-matte in the opacity slot of your leaf material, and with it you can control how many leaves you have on your trees. I already showed a small tutorial on this in one of the very first shows. But with this being said, I think we have enough from this first street shot. I really like it. I really think it's good. Now let's take a look at the second shot, which, to be honest, isn't quite as good as the first one. And I think you know that, and I think that this is the reason why you decided to share it as a comment rather than just add it to the first one. So let's take a look. Modeling wise, I would say it's true here what we said for the first shot. It's solid modeling. There is some issue with the roof here. The edges aren't quite uniform, so you may need to check this. They don't align quite, so maybe take a look at this. But other than that, the modeling isn't the issue here. The materials are also mostly okay. I think most of them are the same as the ones we saw on the street view. There are some strange situations though. I mean, it looks like you have, like your poo is made out of wooden planks, even the water area of it, which obviously technically doesn't make that much sense. Also, the nice, warm, inviting autumn color palette that we have on the first shot is lost here. Instead, we have this kind of dull and moody looking shot, which isn't that great, and this makes for the lack of visual consistency between the two shots. You see, when I switch between them, they're like two different projects. And the thing is, a general recommendation, if you wanted to make like a different lighting mood for the second shot, for the backyard shot, then go for a vastly different one. Because if you make two lighting moods which are kind of similar, it just looks inconsistent. If you have like the day mood here and then you have a blue hour or an evening shot, then people will comprehend, okay, it's just different times of the day, I get it. But if you have these shots that are kind of similar but also not, it's just a loss of consistency. And yeah, let's talk about lighting. The lighting here is kind of confusing. On the first shot, it was just an overcast lighting. Everything about it was pretty clear. On the second shot, however, the whole mood is kind of darker, gloomier, but at the same time we have this very direct and kind of strong sunlight. And also the lighting composition is kind of suboptimal in this case, because large parts of the house are dark, and the house is your main actor here. You don't want it to be dark, while insignificant parts of the garden, like just grass areas, are nicely or properly lit, and this obviously is not a good balance. And again, the image is just generally doesn't have a very nice mood to it, to be honest. The framing itself is okay. You have gone for another natural framing, which is nice, I think. Maybe some depth of field would have been good. And again, some of those plants here in the foreground look kind of heavy. And again, if you think back to what we talked about on the first shot with having less leaves on the trees, I think this will help here, because this will make these areas kind of more lightweight. Other than because with them, the way they are currently, everything is kind of very dark, almost into the like claustrophobic, depressing type of dark. Scattering wise, the grass looks nice. I like how non-uniform it is. So it has some high authenticity to it, but at the same time, it looks kind of too wild for a house like this, because these people seem to keep everything else proper and clean and stuff. But you see how here the grass is suddenly starting to overgrow the edges. So I would say maybe give a courtyard there like this a more shorter, more managed grass with a clearer edge on the surfaces, just for a more tidy look, which better fits the house, in my opinion. Also, what you dearly miss here, it's still late autumn, are fallen leaves onto the meadow. It doesn't matter how clean these people are. In the autumn, you can clean now, and an hour later, there are tons of fallen leaves. It's just the way nature works. So yeah, in conclusion, I would say this is nice work, especially if it was a commercial one. It's great. In future, maybe try to achieve better, more consistent or more constant visual consistency between your shots. We just talked about this. Also, maybe pay a bit more attention to the small details like here, or the fallen leaves and things like that, so that the whole scene makes a lot of sense. And maybe do some further reading on the topic of lighting composition. And with this, we are actually at the end of today's show. It was a long one, and it was also, we had some technical issues. Facebook had some technical issues, but I see that a lot of you were still there for the second part of it, which makes me extremely happy. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for overcoming these technical difficulties and still finding time to get back to the show for the second time. Once again, I plan to fuse both videos together to one continuous video that you can then enjoy as a whole and not two different parts. So yeah, Amit says thank you all, and thank you Theo for this session. It was a pleasure. It was really cool. It was awesome that we got to talk a bit, to chat and interact with each other. I always very much enjoy this. Never hold back. Don't hesitate to say hi, to just share your opinion or whatever. This is why the show is a live session and not just a recording. Gail says, thank you for this amazing session. Dhanushka, cheers guys, cheers Theo. Cheers to you too. Stay safe, be healthy, have a good rest of the week. I hope to see you again back in 2 weeks at the same place and time. Rock on, and I'll see you again, my friends. Bye.